So I've already done my pencil quarter and my biro quarter, and we're leaving this one linear. So my next task is to do the coloured pencil, and I am going to use 4 coloured pencils. You could just use 3. You could use the yellow, the brown and the blue, or you can use a bit of this sort of light pink as well, which is quite a good blender. And I'm going to try and recreate the colours in this section of the skull. So I'm going to do kind of what I did with this one. I'm going to really look at each individual section and try and pick out the colours and try and replicate these tones so that you can see it makes it look more 3D. So at the moment, my linear image is very flat in comparison to that. So hopefully at the end, you'll see it looks all nice and 3D, and your only flat section is going to be this section here. Now, there isn't any blue really in here, but what blue works really well as is this brown here is quite a reddy orangey brown, and blue is the opposite colour of orange. So it works really well to tone down the brown so that you're able to get these really dark colours. You'll see what I mean when I start doing it. Like all of the other sections, I'm going to start off with the darkest colours because that is how I like to work. So I'm going to find all of these dark sections first, and then I will move on to the other bits, so kind of these mid-tones, and then I'll put in the detail. I start off with the darkest areas, and I start off with a blue. I am pressing on about medium hard here, and then I go over the top in the brown and press on quite hard with that. And you can see what a beautiful dark tone you can get in comparison to this bit where I've just done a tiny bit of brown and then I've blended in a little bit of blue to make it darker. So the brown on its own is quite a warm colour, and the blue is a cool colour and tones the brown down so it feels like it's going back into the face. Quite often you use cool colours when you are trying to make something go backwards, so like a shadow, and then you use warmer colours, so later I'll use the yellow to create a highlight or make something come out a little bit in the same way that if you were doing makeup and you were doing contouring, you would use a cooler coloured dark kind of it's not called a bronzer but whatever it's called, and then you would use a more yellowy toned highlighter to pick up on the highlights of your face. And we're kind of doing the same thing here with the skull. We're using that idea of contouring to create a 3D shape. So the basics of getting the skull 3D mean that you're kind of doing the same thing as you would contour. You're putting the shadows in the same place. Now, I kind of work over the face of trying to find the dark areas. I tend to put the darker areas in first, then the mid-tones, and I'm kind of doing each section at a time, really looking at all of the different bits. Obviously this is sped up quite majorly, but it took me about 25 minutes to do this. So I know it looks like I'm going really quick, but I wasn't. But I made sure that I was looking at all of the different sections and trying to really get those cracks and that kind of texture of the bone so that it didn't just look smooth. I used the same idea with the teeth, where I was looking at each individual tooth and trying to get the different texture and the different shading on each tooth to make them look more realistic. Here is the final outcome where you can see the 3D-ness that I've managed to get with the different pencil crayons. And hopefully you can see the different tones that I've managed to get as well. So it really is about using that colour to make it look 3D. And then if you zoom out, you can see the whole picture finished with the 4 different quarters. So we've got our linear, our pen, pencil and coloured pencil.